She is the most perverted drug wholesaler in the world. The front man is still talking and joking with his customers. The next minute, he may be throwing a poor-performing opponent into a giant meat grinder, grinding them into a pile of mince and turning it into meatballs that are carefully processed into a cheeseburger, then asking another customer in front of her to eat it all. If the customer can eat a large piece without spitting it out, they can join her growing drug trading network, the Golden Circle Organization. The woman, Poppy, owns the largest drug trading network in the world, so she hides in the deep mountains. To pass the time, she raises a tall boyfriend, and this tall guy is named Charlie. He was fortunate to escape death from Kingsman agents. Kingsman used electric rings to stun him in the previous movie, so he escaped being shot, losing a muscle and an arm. Poppy equipped her young boyfriend with a high-tech armored arm, which directly increases his fighting strength. He decided to face his opponent once again, Eggsy, a Kingsman agent in the UK, whose car was probably the most envious young man's. Not only does he have a girlfriend who is a Swedish princess, he also owns a cool Jaguar sports car as a means of transportation. Every day he goes to a tailor shop called Kingsman to work. This store is also one of the secret bases of the Kingsman agents. But Eggsy's colleagues are also people that make others admire him. As he happily prepares to go home after a working day, he sees a familiar face. It turned out to be Charlie, who went to confront Eggsy, but he not only came alone, there were two more cars following. Eggsy saw something was wrong. He immediately shot at Charlie from a taxi, then asked the driver to drive off immediately. Eggsy and Charlie fought fiercely in the back of the car. Eggsy wanted to use the electric ring once again, but this time it had no effect on Charlie. Charlie's iron arm was extremely powerful, not only able to break on the ground, but it can also block Eggsy's gun. The two cars behind also continuously hit their black taxi. Two people in one of the cars are still zombie-like. Eggsy turned his poison knife on Charlie, but Charlie dodged it. Eggsy broke the knife with his hand, but it unexpectedly stabbed into the driver's neck. The driver fell down. Eggsy immediately crawled to hide right in the back of the front seat. The taxi crashed into a roadside column. The huge impact caused Charlie to fly out, leaving only an iron arm hanging on the car. Eggsy is not so badly hurt. He had once again defeated Charlie, but there were more enemy cars surrounding the broken taxi. But this taxi is not a normal taxi. It is equipped with the highest technology of the Kingsman agents. Eggsy presses a switch button, and the car immediately changed to a new tire configuration. Under his control, the entire car moved sideways, escaping from the siege, but the enemy vehicles behind were not easy to shake. From a roof of one car, a fierce gun emerged, aimed at the black taxi, and fired. Eggsy quickly asked for permission from Merlin, the quartermaster at the headquarters, to use a missile. Merlin disagreed because they were in the downtown area. Launching a missile would hurt innocent people. With no other way, Eggsy turned on rampage mode, running fast towards the park. But the enemy's gunfire was even more intense. Seeing a deserted place, Eggsy launched a rocket. The missile immediately destroyed 3 enemy cars. Eggsy had not been happy for long when Merlin told him that police cars were about to give chase. Now he could only hide in a lake. But the taxi had no windows. The poor Eggsy could only hold his breath and drive into the lake. Unexpectedly, this taxi also has high technology. Just after arriving at the bottom of the lake, it transformed into a turbine engine. The entire car turned into a submarine that went deep into the bottom of the lake, where the Kingsman agents also have a secret base. Eggsy saw he was a little drowning. He also had an important date tonight, but Merlin told him the police were everywhere. If he wanted to go home, he could only go another way, through a stinking sewer. Eggsy was nauseous the whole way, but because the date was important tonight, he could only jump straight into this smelly place. What both he and Merlin did not expect was that the robot arm left in the car moved on its own. The robot arm crawled in front of a screen, plugged its finger in, and began to penetrate Kingsman's internal system. All the information of the Kingsman agents is downloaded by it. A disaster is quickly coming to Kingsman. The important date that Eggsy said was the first time he was having dinner with his girlfriend's parents. Her family is royal and noble. The king basically does not consider Eggsy worthy. He did not understand why his daughter loved a poor young man in England, so he began to deliberately make things difficult for him. He asked Eggsy a question: "How do you feel about the Indian financial market?" Just when everyone thought that Eggsy would definitely not be able to answer, he calmly and fluently answered. This time, not only was the king bewildered, even the girl was too. Next, although the king asked all kinds of tough questions, Eggsy smiled and answered extremely clearly. It turned out Eggsy had external help. His beautiful female colleague, Roxy, was helping him find the answers to these questions remotely and then whispering them to him. Just as Eggsy was feeling satisfied, a missile suddenly shot at the base that Roxy was in, causing the headquarters of the Kingsman agent to be destroyed in a moment. Shortly thereafter, another missile hit Eggsy's house. After that, the Kingsman shop was also destroyed. The entire UK base of Kingsman was wiped out in a moment. It turns out this is all the work of the female drug lord Poppy. In this way, no one would be able to keep an eye on her drug trading operations anymore. Eggsy stands in front of the ruins of the Kingsman shop, suffering too much to speak. In just one night, all of his colleagues had perished. At this time, a familiar figure suddenly appeared on the other side of the ruins. Eggsy quickly aimed his gun straight at that person. It turned out to be Merlin. It turned out he was not dead. Eggsy thought that he was the traitor. If not, why was he still alive? But Eggsy actually blamed Merlin. Merlin removed the robot arm. He investigated Charlie's robotic arm that had broken into their system. Because there are now only 2 Kingsman agents, Merlin decided it was time to activate the Doomsday Protocol. The Doomsday Program is a self-rescue program that Kingsman established long ago. Merlin took Eggsy to a distillation plant. Following the receptionist to room number 3, Merlin was also coming here for the first time. He saw a familiar groove on the wall, so he took out a Kingsman badge and placed it in the groove. The wall automatically opened, revealing a safe. Merlin was a bit excited. He felt that what was inside could definitely help them deal with the crisis. But unexpectedly, when he opened the safe, what was inside was a bottle of bourbon whiskey and a frog-shaped paperweight. Merlin and the frog paperweight looked at each other in bewilderment, not understanding what the Kingsman seniors meant. They wondered if they were supposed to drink to forget their sorrow. Anyway, since they had come this far, the 2 of them immediately opened the alcohol to drink together. Unexpectedly, this whiskey was so delicious. The 2 of them sat down happily, drinking and drinking again. A large bottle of whiskey was soon finished. A stoic man like Merlin, when drunk, started crying, and the frog paperweight fell over. He grabbed the bottle of whiskey, then suddenly discovered something strange. On the inner label of the bottle was printed a message that this wine bottle was produced in the Kentucky area with the symbol of Kingsman on it. Eggsy realized the 2 of them needed to go to America. Bourbon whiskey is a famous liquor made in the U.S., named after Bourbon County in Kentucky, America. This liquor must be more than 50% corn. Eggsy and Merlin went to a place called Statesman Distillery in Kentucky. Not noticing a clock with a fingerprint scanner for the wine warehouse, they thought a barrel was the secret door and were preparing to open it when a robust American cowboy appeared in front of them. Since the 2 had sneaked in and ruined a wine barrel, the cowboy said they didn't belong and rushed to fight. The 2 were not the cowboy's opponent. Moreover, he knew very well about Kingsman agents and used copper knuckles. Eggsy countered him with an anesthetic needle. Eggsy and Merlin were tied up. The cowboy, after hearing the reason they came, did not believe them. He thought that these 2 were here to rob the distillery. Then the 2 saw a scene that made them extremely shocked. Harry Hart, who was killed by the villain in the first movie, was alive behind a glass wall. Seeing the one-eyed man, the cowboy pointed a gun at Harry, asking Eggsy to say their real purpose, otherwise he would count down and then eliminate the man behind the glass. At this stressful time, a woman rushed in and stopped him. It turned out that they had found in the warehouse information that the Kingsman agents had left there long ago, but on an umbrella was their logo. Only then did Eggsy understand. These people are actually the American counterpart of the Kingsman agents, named Statesman. In remote America, the cowboy is named Tequila, and the woman named Ginger is their technical staff. The first thing that the 2 did after being untied was go to the room next door. When Eggsy saw Harry, he was so touched that he wanted to hug him, but he did not expect Harry to be panicked. In his eyes, Eggsy and Merlin are complete strangers. Ginger told the 2 of them the truth. It turned out that Harry was shot a year ago. Statesman agents discovered a powerful signal near the church. When they arrived there, they discovered that Harry was still breathing, but he had been shot in the head. Saving the life of someone shot in the head is not difficult for the most mysterious and powerful agents of America. Ginger uses high-tech glue to seal Harry's head wound and sprays nanobots to repair Harry's nerve tissue. Although Harry was saved, because the bullet damaged the brain, Harry lost his memory. Now he is not the polite but strong Kingsman agent, but just a shy butterfly-collecting uncle. Tequila took Eggsy to see the head of the Statesman organization, Champ. Champ agreed to help Eggsy. Eggsy had investigated that Charlie's ex-girlfriend would be at a concert soon. This is the only clue to find Charlie. Champ decided to send Tequila to support Eggsy. Unexpectedly, Tequila's face broke out in scary blue stripes, and more appeared. With no other way, Champ sent another senior agent with the codename Whiskey instead. Whiskey showed Eggsy the high-tech gadgets of the Statesman agent, a mini finger cot. But this is to wear on your fingers. By pressing on the outer layer for 3 seconds, it releases a covert eavesdropping device. Eggsy didn't understand where this could be used, but immediately afterwards he understood. At the concert, they saw Charlie's ex-girlfriend. This is a hot woman. Whiskey wanted to go forward first. The woman wasn't interested in a grizzled uncle like him, but when she faced a young man like Eggsy, her eyes lit up again. Whiskey could only step back. While Eggsy is chatting with the beauty, he noticed a girl next to her with symptoms like tequila, green rashes. Moreover, there were also a large number of young people with these green rashes, and more were appearing, and Tequila was in a coma in a hospital bed. That evening, the beauty brought Eggsy into her place. At this time, the woman seemed to have lost all patience and wanted to do unmentionable things with Eggsy. But Eggsy had misgivings. He took the classic excuse to go to the toilet, then secretly called his girlfriend. It turned out he knew that hooking up could ruin things with his girlfriend, but because of his conscience, he wanted to explain to his girlfriend. After all, this is a job requirement. But the young man underestimated a woman's jealousy. His girlfriend immediately hung up on him. Eggsy returned to the room dejectedly. He decided to try another method to get information. But unexpectedly, the beautiful woman was demanding. Eggsy was about to refuse when he saw the golden circle icon behind her, the same one on Charlie's body. So he immediately changed his mind. Eggsy stealthily put the high-tech finger cot on, and he and the girl fell into the bed. Thus, a tiny eavesdropping device was inserted into the woman's body. Eggsy had completed the task successfully. Then he immediately left her place. When he called his girlfriend, he got voicemail. Heartbroken, Eggsy returned to the Statesman agent's headquarters. Unexpectedly, his mentor Harry was about to leave. After becoming a normal person, he wants to live his own life. Eggsy was extremely worried. He did not want to lose anyone else he loved. But Harry, who lost his memory, still said goodbye and left. Eggsy was sad, so he went alone to the bar to drink strong wine. He flipped through intimate photos with his girlfriend. Suddenly, a picture of the two hugging a small dog made him stop. He suddenly thought of a way to arouse Harry's memories. The next day, Eggsy appeared in front of Harry with JB, the small dog Harry loves very much. But unexpectedly, Eggsy drew his Walther PPK and aimed directly at the dog. He threatened to shoot the dog. Harry feared for it and hugged the small dog. Eggsy reminded Harry that Kingsman agents must go through a test. Before officially becoming an agent, a candidate had to be willing to shoot the dog they raised. The dog meant as much to Harry as his own child. Eggsy wanted to stimulate Harry into remembering his past. As expected, Harry immediately remembered his own dog and the test he took. He recalled the moment Valentine shot him. He also remembered that after he shot his dog, it was unharmed because the gun was loaded only with fake bullets. He kept his dog until it died. Harry finally remembered everything. He also called his protégé by name. Eggsy? Eggsy, hello. Eggsy could not help but hug Harry tightly. He finally found the man he regarded as his father. Harry put on an elegant suit again, and his glasses, the signature look of Kingsman agents. At this time, a drunken man appeared and started a fight. He uttered vulgar words to insult Harry. So, a very familiar scene for Harry appeared. Manners maketh man. Harry threw a glass of beer at the guy, but this time he did not beat the opponent. Shortly after, he was knocked down by the opponent's punch. He was absolutely no longer the agent he was in the previous movie. Finally, it was the local agent, Whiskey, who acted. He was familiar with dealing with drunken guys. Whiskey's weapons are a lasso and whips, common things in the West. He confused the big man. Meanwhile, Harry sat looking miserable. Merlin consoled him that his brain might not be recovered completely, but it might be okay later. Whiskey had solved all the drunks. He also did not forget to pose stylishly. At this moment, the drug lord Poppy suddenly appeared on the TV screen. Poppy stated to all of the United States that she had released a virus hidden in her drugs. Anyone who uses her drugs will be infected with this virus. Infected people will appear green rashes. If left untreated without an antidote, they will go crazy and die. Poppy stated her demand. She wants the U.S. government to legalize drugs and pardon all her crimes. If they agree to her demand, then she will release the antidote. If not, they should prepare for mass death. This news made people panic because the number of drug users in the U.S. is huge. The president was secretly pleased. He hates people using drugs. He even thought this was the best opportunity to remove drug users from the earth. Unbeknownst to him, a Statesman eavesdropping device was in the bottle of wine in his office. The agents realized the president was crazy. Millions of lives were at stake. They had to prevent the tragedy. But at this moment, Ginger sent news. She discovered that Charlie's ex-girlfriend Clara contacted Charlie. It turned out that Clara was also infected with the virus. Charlie told her to go to a ski resort in Italy. There is a Golden Circle production facility. There, Charlie would give her an antidote. Therefore, the Statesman leader sent a team to verify it. Eggsy, Harry, and Whiskey went to the foot of the snowy mountain. After seeing Harry's unreliable behavior at the bar earlier, Whiskey decided to let him provide support remotely, while he and Eggsy went up the mountain. Harry was sent to the gondola control room. He overpowered the operator and controlled the gondola. Meanwhile, Eggsy and Whiskey went to the building on the top of the snowy mountain. They discovered that this place was filled with antidotes. Eggsy pretended to be a customer and went to the front desk. While chatting with the clerk, he learned that there was a customer from Singapore. At this point, Charlie recognized Eggsy. Eggsy quickly grabbed a bottle of antidote and then fled with Whiskey. The two hurriedly ran towards the gondola. Eggsy told Harry to start the gondola. But now Harry was having a problem. He began to see disturbing illusions. He didn't seem to hear Eggsy's calls. Eggsy called for a long time. In the end, Harry reacted and restarted the gondola. At this moment, Charlie also chased out. Seeing Eggsy sitting in the gondola, he not only wasn't upset, but revealed a cunning smile. It turned out Charlie had regained control of the gondola system, causing it to start spinning rapidly. The gondola is like a rotisserie. The faster it spins, the more Eggsy and Whiskey were pushed against the glass wall, unable to move. As Eggsy was spinning, the experienced agent Whiskey pulled out a laser lasso. He cut a hole in the glass wall and sliced a gondola cable. The gondola finally escaped Charlie's control, but it fell from the cable. The gondola rolled like a huge snowball down the mountainside. However, halfway down, there was a retirement home. Many elderly grandparents were sitting on the balcony relaxing and sightseeing. The gondola was heading straight for them. Eggsy came up with an idea. He pulled Whiskey. The gondola crashed through the retirement home amidst screams. It finally stopped firmly in front of a balcony. The grandparents breathed a sigh of relief because, after months of constipation, they were finally relieved at this impact. Harry met Eggsy and Whiskey in a wooden cabin at the foot of the mountain, but right behind them, enemies gave chase. Seeing the enemy, Whiskey immediately shouted at the two of them to lie down, but he accidentally shattered the antidote in Eggsy's hand. The enemy stormed the wooden house. While the enemy was reloading, Whiskey rushed out to deal with them. Eggsy also wanted to help, but was stopped by Harry. It turned out that Harry suspected Whiskey might be a traitor. He thought Whiskey had deliberately shattered the antidote. However, Eggsy thinks that Harry hasn't recovered completely. Anyway, Whiskey was now outside fighting the enemy. Whiskey fought very effectively. In the blink of an eye, he defeated many enemies with 2 silver pistols. When his gun ran out of bullets, he used his laser lasso to slice the last guy in half. Unexpectedly, as soon as he resolved one group, another car of soldiers appeared. Whiskey rushed back to the wooden cabin. Seeing the new enemy approaching, Eggsy and Whiskey both felt tense. Whiskey saw that Harry stood idly up and did not help, so he handed Eggsy a weapon. Unexpectedly, Harry aimed the weapon at Whiskey. At this moment, the enemy outside began to attack again. The cabin was quickly shot full of holes. Eggsy felt extremely confused, not understanding how Harry could attack his teammate in such an emergency. Harry claimed Whiskey was a traitor. After that, he calmly took out a bottle of paralyzing gas from his pocket, pressed the button, and threw it out of the cabin. A loud hiss rang out, and then the gunfire stopped. When Eggsy saw outside, everyone had turned into frozen statues. Despite the emergency, Eggsy still felt angry at Harry. He immediately used the special sealant tape of the Statesman organization to wrap Whiskey's head, hoping it could save him. After that, Eggsy called the Statesman headquarters to notify Ginger about Whiskey's serious condition. But in the end, he did not say that Harry was the one who did it. Anyway, Harry is still his teacher. Eggsy hoped the headquarters would send more people so they could bring more antidote from the mountaintop. But Poppy would not let that happen. As Eggsy's helicopter flew away, she pressed a button that made the whole factory explode into dust. Although there was no antidote left, Eggsy had informed Ginger that a Singapore customer of the Golden Circle organization existed. Perhaps they could find useful information. Indeed, Ginger and Merlin found the location of the drug lord Poppy through the Singaporean customer. It turned out to be located in a hidden jungle in the deep mountains of Cambodia. Meanwhile, the situation in the United States became extremely bad. As time passed, more and more people developed green rashes. To contain the infected, the United States locked them up in iron cages. Not only that, Eggsy also received a call from his girlfriend. He thought that she was no longer angry. Unexpectedly, her face had developed green rash marks. Eggsy felt extremely worried. He had to immediately fly to Cambodia to find the antidote to rescue his girlfriend. On the plane, Harry looked at Eggsy's sad face and made him a glass of martini. Harry told Eggsy that he was very jealous of him because he has people to care about, while in his own life he had no one to love. He felt that the boy he raised had a meaningful life. Therefore, he would help Eggsy save his princess. Hearing Harry that, Eggsy's mood also improved. At this time, Merlin informed the two of them that it was time to choose their equipment. This time, Merlin, who always supports behind, also put on a well-designed suit. He was determined to join Eggsy on the mission to save the world. They no longer had Kingsman equipment, but the Statesman agent's gear was just as good. A glossy stick seems normal, but when pressing a button, it turns into a mine. And a small ball is a powerful grenade. Merlin chose an extremely powerful weapon for himself. Meanwhile, Whiskey, lying on the sickbay, had woken up. When Eggsy and Harry had flown to Cambodia, his anger boiled over. He immediately took a super-speed jet to chase them. A big battle is about to start. Eggsy, Harry, and Merlin carefully navigated the minefield. Poised in the jungle, because Poppy was afraid of being arrested, the base was surrounded by mines. The three men reached near the main gate with difficulty, but Eggsy suddenly stopped. It turned out he stepped on a landmine. Merlin told him to absolutely not move. Then he took out a high-tech spray that could freeze the landmine. However, the freeze effect is limited. Saying that, Merlin pushed Eggsy, but unfortunately, he also stepped on another landmine. Just as the freeze effect ended, Eggsy wanted to stay to save Merlin, but Merlin told them to quickly complete the task. Eggsy had no other way. He had to leave with Harry. The gate was strictly guarded by armed men. At this moment, Merlin began singing loudly, attracting the guards' attention. It turned out he was intentionally singing to lure the enemy away from his friends. He sang the song Country Roads, his favorite song, to lure the enemy towards him. Then he looked at his teammates one last time and lifted his foot. Merlin died. Eggsy and Harry, filled with anger and pain, rushed forward. The two of them launched grenades and rushed into the base. Harry blocked bullets from the enemy. Eggsy hides behind him. Then Eggsy took out his briefcase. It turned out to be a heavy machine gun that can not only shoot bullets, but can also launch missiles. The explosion caused the enemy to collapse in mass. At this point, more enemy soldiers arrived. Eggsy opened his briefcase. It immediately turned into a shield, protecting him from the hail of bullets. And Harry grabbed an enemy's gun and fought fiercely, coordinating a 360-degree attack perfectly with Eggsy. In just a moment, the two of them destroyed all the enemies around. They rushed into Poppy's restaurant. Eggsy saw a man holding a suitcase running away. It turned out that the suitcase was the controller for releasing the antidote. Eggsy hurriedly chased him while Harry confronted Poppy. Although Poppy is not powerful, she has two fierce robot dogs. One attacked Harry. Harry tried to block its attack with his umbrella, but unexpectedly, the dog's claws are very sharp. They tore the umbrella to shreds. Harry realized he couldn't fight them, so he rushed out of the restaurant and ran to the bowling alley next door. But unexpectedly, the dog still followed closely behind. As it was about to pounce on Harry, music legend Elton John suddenly appeared in front of the dog. It turned out that Poppy was his fan, so she forced him to come here to sing for her every day. So all her dogs know him. Upon seeing him, they stop attacking. Harry took the opportunity to throw a bowling ball at the dog repeatedly, finally defeating it. On the other side, Eggsy and Charlie also began their final battle. Charlie's arm is not only strong, but can also extend to grab Eggsy, pulling him closer. The two started a final fight. Charlie lifted Eggsy up as if he were a chick, then slammed him hard onto the ground. After that, he threw Eggsy into the wall as if he were a sandbag. Just as Charlie thought that he had won, Eggsy suddenly showed a strange smile. It turned out that when Eggsy approached, he attached a device to Charlie's mechanical arm. The arm completely stopped listening to Charlie's command, so it started attacking him. Eggsy ordered the arm to extend its lasso, wrapping Charlie tightly around a tree. As Eggsy was about to leave, Charlie, in pain, separated himself from the arm and jumped down. Seeing Charlie cling on like a leech, Eggsy decided to fight him fairly with one hand. Without his arm, Charlie was not Eggsy's opponent. Finally, he was pinned down by Eggsy. Eggsy remembered his colleagues who died, JB, and Merlin who had just sacrificed. This time, he decided to show no mercy. Eggsy snapped Charlie's neck, avenging the deceased. Eggsy and Harry reunited. They walked into the restaurant to face the final enemy. Eggsy accessed the antidote release system and demanded Poppy enter the password to send the antidote worldwide. But how would she obey? Eggsy and Harry looked at each other, then simultaneously injected Poppy with her own virus, increasing the dose for a faster effect. As expected, Poppy quickly developed green rashes. When Eggsy asked for the password, Poppy began to lose her composure, finally vaguely giving the password. Then the drug lord collapsed, ending her sinful life. The two finally breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed their mission was completed. As Harry was entering the password, a lasso tightened around his neck. It turned out that Whiskey had arrived. Eggsy felt very confused. Poppy was dead, so why was this person still stopping them? Who was he working for? Whiskey finally revealed the real reason. 10 years ago, his wife, newly pregnant, was murdered by a drug addict. So from then on, he hates drug users. He wants all users in this world to disappear. And now was the best opportunity. Therefore, he had to prevent Eggsy and Harry from releasing the antidote. While Whiskey was complacent about having control, Eggsy suddenly pressed a button on his watch. At the same time, Harry managed to get rid of the noose. The two British agents started fighting the American agent. Eggsy and Harry fought in perfect coordination, destroying all of Whiskey's weapons. The three fighters moved from the main hall to the meat processing area. Eggsy activated the giant meat grinder. Under Harry's support, the two knocked Whiskey over and forced him towards the meat grinder. In the end, they dealt with him. Eggsy entered the password. After that, tens of thousands of drones brought the antidote.
Around the world, all infected people were saved. Everyone was released from the iron cage and started a new life. After this event, Eggsy and Harry used all the resources of the Statesman organization to rebuild the Kingsman organization back in England. They also welcomed a new colleague, Tequila. The legend of the Kingsman secret agents will continue.